Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is your boy, the Beanie Boy. Not Dave Meltzer, but your fave Meltzer, the South African Wrestling Observer. And you're tuned in to the Loudmouth Appreciation Society presents Off the Top Rope.
Right. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages and denominations. My apologies for Loudmouth present. Why is this paused? I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I don't know if I should use the word TikTok famous because you only just the channel's been up for how long and it's already got over 1,000 followers.
Just less than 2 months. I think
Less
it's been
than
a
2
month
months.
and 2 weeks.
Right. If
Yeah.
you are on TikTok and you are a wrestling fan, go onto TikTok, look up the South African Wrestling Observer. You will see some really, really interesting stuff. And we have got the man that owns the channel, that is the South African Wrestling Observer. How are you doing?
I'm good, Mr. Loudmouth. How's it going?
All right. Mr. Untuli.
Yes, Mr. Donovan Bluchno. Do people call you by your real name? Or
Some of them do, and some of them just call me Loudmouth. It's just easier sometimes.
I can imagine the cashier at Checkers calling you Mr. Loudmouth. I think that makes more sense.
man, God, yeah. Some people they're like Loudmouth. What's your name? I'm like the Loudmouth. Donovan's my mild mannered alter ego.
Definitely, I believe that.
We're a little bit late with this video. As I mentioned, ESCOM decided to, they think it's 1979 and disco's still alive, and flicking the lights on and off.
Yep.
But we've had two great events happen within a week of each other. We had the Forbidden Door, and then we had Money in the Bank. Let's start with the AEW one because that was obviously first. What was your hot take about Forbidden Door?
It was obvious. I think for me, a lot of the matches were, you knew the results already, even before the pay-per-view. And I think that's the one thing that wrestling needs to work on, the element of surprise,
Right.
I mean, imagine the news, imagine the headlines if Tanahashi had won the AEW championship.
Yeah.
But we knew that Moxley is probably going to win so they can do Moxley and Punk, which is fine. But the element of surprise. I wanted to turn off the TV after watching that event thinking I did not see that coming,
Sure.
But I think, and it's not an AEW problem, it's not a WWE problem, but just pro wrestling in general. There's no more element of surprise.
Right. Okay.
And that's the only gripe I have with Forbidden Door. I mean, the pay-per-view was fine, not much to write home about, but yeah, just give me something that will shock me.
What was shocking for me was there was no Naito at Forbidden Door. That was shocking for me.
Yeah. And
Now,
that's not
apparently,
the type of shock we're looking for.
Yeah, man. Apparently, he wasn't invited. But
which begs the question
who would you have put him against? What would you have done? Because he's too big a star to put into a trios match or a or a buy-in,
a multi-man match,
something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Naito versus Eddie Kingston would have been amazing on its own.
Yeah.
I think they would have taken each other's heads off. But like you're saying, someone like Naito who really needs his own spotlight, I think it wouldn't have made sense to put him in a match where he doesn't go over,
Yeah.
So it's the lack of small or low card talent that AEW has that caused the problem. Because you can't put him against someone you're trying to push, whereas he is, like you're saying, a big star. Who's going to go over?
Yeah.
So I think for reputation's sake on both parties, Naito and the company, it's unfortunate, but it's okay that they left him off.
Do you think Forbidden Door would have benefited from maybe something like a Toriyanu versus Danhausen kind of thing, because the matches were very very story driven, very heavy. Each match was,
Yeah,
if I can use the term heavy, had a
yeah.
lot of story, a lot of background, and things like that. Do you think a comedy match,
Mhm.
maybe Danhausen versus Toriyanu or
Yeah,
something like that, would have kind of like been a palate cleanser for some
yeah,
of the action, like, giving it a, a I don't want to use the term break match, but giving it a bit of a comedy element.
definitely, definitely. I think every event needs that. You know, every event needs that. And yes, we're going to be talking about WWE a bit later, but I'd like to bring them into this part of the discussion. That the one thing that WWE doesn't fail to do is to have comic relief in
Yeah,
their pay-per-views,
yeah,
which is very important for many reasons, but mainly because people get, we call ourselves wrestling fans, but in all honesty, we get tired of watching people fight. And that's just the truth. Nobody
yeah,
wants to see technical masterpiece after technical masterpiece after technical. Nobody wants to watch Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk the whole 3 hours.
yeah, yeah,
Very few people can sit for that. But I
yeah,
mean, having comedy skit there, or having, God knows how much I hate it, but a 24/7 title chase there, it's very important. It gives that, okay.
yeah,
As
yeah,
much
yeah,
as it's sports, it's entertainment. You understand? And
yeah, yeah.
you bring yourself back to that. So definitely,
All right.
definitely, a match like that was very necessary.
And just a
Yeah,
caveat on that, I think that's something that Impact Wrestling do really well. That
definitely.
comedy stuff of it, like a Wrestle House or a Um, they got great comedy. This is what I like about Impact, because sometimes people take wrestling too seriously. And Impact Wrestling, the matches are really good, the
Yeah,
wrestlers are really good, things like that. But it somehow doesn't take itself too seriously, you know. And I kind of like that.
and it never has.
Yeah, yeah.
It never has. I mean, they're having this massive influx of top tier talent, but they'll
Mm.
always make room for someone like a Crazy Steve,
Yeah,
on the match card. They'll
yeah,
always
yeah,
make room for someone like a Rosemary, who can play a serious character, but she can also be comic relief.
yeah. Right.
And I mentioned WWE and didn't talk about them, but they did that very well in the earlier years. When
Yeah,
they had
I
like
get you.
a WLC match, for example, like Al Torito was fighting many great Khali's and many Undertakers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That that type of thing is very much needed on pay-per-view. And to your point, Impact Wrestling, they've really missed when it comes to that. Really, really missed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The match that disappointed you on Forbidden Door.
Mm, 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 mm. The triple threat.
Okay.
The fatal four. Sorry, the fatal four way.
The one where
Um,
Adam Cole got injured.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think as much as the match was fine and the star power was there, being an Adam Cole fan, firstly, and having him get injured, but also uh, sometimes, and it goes back to the point of Naito. Some stars are too big to have them feature in multi-man matches.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Mm-hmm.
have loved to see, as much as I don't really rate him that highly, but give me a one-on-one between the Switchblade and the Cowboy. You know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
just let them showcase their talent without being overshadowed. You can't put Okada in a multi-man match.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Okada,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Okada,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You can't do that. And yes, many people argue that Okada of now is not the Okada of old, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There,
Mm-hmm.
there's a small number of superstars who post COVID, and I'm not saying COVID caused it, but many superstars have not maintained the same level post COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many superstars have fallen off for whatever reason, but the name still carries weight.
Right.
The name still sticks. And we know Adam Cole to be a star.
Right. Okay.
We know Adam Page, who has been given the world title to be a star. Okada, Jay White, now the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Those are all stars. So putting them in multi-man matches and having them do whatever it is they can do, for me, it breeds disappointment, and that's the match for me.
Right.
That made me feel like it could have been so much more.
Right. Then a question that needs to be asked: in your opinion, does Adam Cole fit the Seth Rollins, Naito, and I want to throw Kevin Owens in there, and I want to throw Daniel Bryan in there, and Cesaro in there. Guys that are the guys that transcend titles. They don't need to have a
Mhm.
title to be relevant. Daniel Bryan doesn't need a title to be relevant. As far as I'm concerned, Cesaro doesn't need a title to be relevant. In your opinion, does Adam Cole fit into that block of guys that they don't necessarily need to have a title, but they always seem as guys that are transcending of the title, that they don't need it, but they're still relevant? I think Kenny Omega can be put into that as well.
Definitely. And now it begs the question, or it begs the comparison, Adam Cole and all those guys that you mentioned, And some guys don't need the title because they have it. They have an it factor, you
Yeah.
know. And Cesaro is probably the toughest wrestler in any company at the moment. That's why he doesn't need a title. Kevin
Yeah.
Owens is the most reliable wrestler in any company,
Oh,
and that's
absolutely.
why he doesn't need a
Absolutely.
title. Kenny Omega has earned his stripes around the world, and that's why. So I feel like I can't. I'm sorry. I love the man. I love his work, but I can't put Adam Cole in that bracket.
All right.
Not right
Okay.
now.
Sure.
Not right. And I think it would have been different if he remained in WWE and made the jump to the main roster.
Mhm.
And I saw him there because he had already carried the NXT title for $675,000 cash
Yeah, yeah, I get you.
years.
Yeah, I get you.
But
I get you.
now he's starting on a clean slate, literally.
Right.
He's not going to ROH. He's in a new company, a company he's never been in before.
Hmm.
And so for me, he still has to earn his stripes in that regard. Not
Right.
as a
Okay.
wrestler, not as a wrestler, but in that regard. Not
Right.
having seen how he performs on what many would call a smaller stage, but competition nonetheless. I
Sure.
still
Sure.
need to see Adam Cole come to his own in AEW. So for now, I'd rather not.
Okay. All right. Fair points. Fair points. Match of the night.
Mm,
Now this is a tough one because
it is.
there was
It's very
no
tough.
okay. As far as I'm concerned, there was one match
Hmm.
that was better character driven and better than I expected than all the others. But all the others were good matches. Um, there was one for me that transcends, but I want to get your opinion on that. Which one for you was match of the night?
I know I bashed it earlier, but because I never thought I'd see Tanahashi and Moxley in the same ring,
Yeah, yeah.
and just the talent, the talent that those two men possess,
All right.
and the the prestige of what they're wrestling for. I think as a narrative, and if Punk had not gotten injured, we wouldn't have seen that match. But now that we did, I think the main event, um, yeah, I have mixed feelings about it, but I feel for me, in hindsight, having watched the pay-per-view and seen all the matches, like you're saying, all the matches were all right to watch, you
Yeah.
know. But for me, I considered a lot, especially the fact that I'm watching Dean Ambrose / John Moxley, and probably one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers right now or in history, in Tanahashi, going at it for a world title. I think that for me made that match of the night.
Okay. All right. Would you?
What was it for you? What was it for you?
It was Osprey and Orange Cassidy. The fact that I've been on this channel on my podcast, and I've continually bashed Orange Cassidy because I was indifferent to the character. I
Yeah,
didn't like the setup. I didn't like the kicks or the hands in the pockets or anything. I didn't care for it. Not that I didn't think he was a talented wrestler. I just didn't care for the gimmick.
yeah,
And watch him wrestle and out wrestle
rest.
probably the best wrestler in the world at the
Yeah,
moment. Now, I'm going to say that
yeah.
because Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world at the moment. You can
He
put
is.
Daniel Bryan in
He
there,
is.
whatever. Will Ospreay continues to have match after match after match that are all good. And when I define a good match, it's a match that I would go back and watch.
Sure,
Once
sure.
I've watched the match, I've watched the match. But it's one of those matches that I would go back and watch again. And
I get it.
Orange Cassidy did something that I thought he would never ever do, and that's
Never
got
do.
me to care for him.
Sure,
Got me to
sure.
invest in what he was actually doing in the ring, because I'm gonna say, damn it, that boy can wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah,
wrestled his ass off, and he at points in the match he out wrestled Will Ospreay, and
that's true.
his character development was good. Will Ospreay's heel work was good. Um, and when I say good, I'm talking about a a minus stuff, like everything. When you put on match quality, when you put on timing, when you put on crispness of the moves and things like that, everything was an A minus, A minus, A, and it was one of the matches where I could put that match on now and I could enjoy it again. Zack
Mm,
Sabre
mm.
and
And I think,
Claudio was a good match, and that was my second favorite match. And the only reason I didn't put that match first is
yeah,
because Zack Sabre Jr. kicked out of the neuralizer within 5 seconds. I'm like, I hate that. I hate guys
mm,
kicking out of finishes.
mm,
Don't do
mm.
it. Guys kicking
And
out of Tombstone Pile Jarvis and
exactly,
Styles clashes and things like
exactly.
that. Pisses me off.
You know what I hate?
Yeah,
You know what I hate the most
yeah, yeah.
is when I hit your finisher and you kick out of it.
Well,
Why? Firstly, why do I have to hit your finisher? Firstly, and I get that it's part of storytelling, and that's great. But you're basically burying your own finisher because you're kicking out of it, you
you
know.
see,
And then when you hit me with it, I have to play dead for 3 seconds. It just it doesn't make sense. And sometimes the finisher could be as ineffective as an attitude adjustment. I'm
yeah,
not bashing John Cena or anything that he's done, but if I hit you with an attitude adjustment, it's probably gonna hurt the same way if you hit me with it, you know.
yeah,
But I still have to lay down and take the pin. It's just, and I was speaking to the Storm Boys about it. Why do opponents have to hit their opponent's finisher and
yeah,
kick out?
yeah.
You basically bury your own finisher.
Well, there's that. And then there's some finishes that are overused to the point where
Oh,
it's.
super kick.
I wasn't going to mention it, man. I wasn't going to mention it
Oh, super kick.
because
Oh,
people give me such crap for the Usos and the Young Bucks and things like that. If I'm in a
oh.
match and somebody wants to give me 3 or 4 super kicks, I just say no. I just say no. I'll take it, but I won't bump.
Yeah,
I
of
won't bump.
course,
I'll sell to the corner.
of course.
I won't do it
It's like
because
an
it's.
orange Cassidy kick now.
Thank you. That's what it is, man. And I hate the Young Bucks for doing it. I hate the Young Bucks for doing it, and I hate the Usos for doing it. Okay, where
It's
did you go?
annoying. Annoying.
And man, um, it used to be Orange Cassidy. It used to be
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy. It is now the Young Bucks. That really get me.
And they never stop. They never
No.
stop. Every new superstar wants to experiment with the super kick. It drives me crazy.
In the beginning, and I think Shawn Michaels popularized the super kick a lot. You know, it wasn't his finisher.
Yeah.
He used the super kick in transition to his finisher, which was actually a teardrop suplex.
Really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, that's news to me. Because when you think Shawn switching music and
You
nothing
think the
else.
super kick, right? No, he used the move in transition to his finisher, which was the teardrop suplex.
Yeah.
And he would finish off like that. The person who actually told him to drop the teardrop suplex was Bret Hart. Bret Hart told him, "Listen here, dude,
That's crazy.
drop the teardrop suplex, finish off with the super kick, and do it with a little bit of a razzmatazz."
That's crazy. I mean, Bret Hart of all people giving
Of
Shawn
all
Michaels
people,
advice.
dude. Of
That's
all
crazy.
people. Back before they were working together and they didn't have beef. They did a circuit in the
Yeah.
Carolinas. And
Okay.
Brett had, I don't know if he was dealing with a back injury. And the teardrop
Mm.
suplex, you basically pick the guy up by the thigh and you put him back into a belly to back suplex. So you're basically hoisting him on the
Yeah.
shoulder and throwing him back like it. And he was suffering
And
with
throwing him back. Yeah.
a back injury.
So he
And,
couldn't take the move.
and he couldn't take the move because his back was injured. He's like, dude, drop the
Yeah.
suplex, just give me the super kick, stomp your foot, give it to me and let me take it. Dude,
Give it something fancy. That's
there we go.
crazy.
There we go.
That's very crazy.
Well, think
That's
about
I don't,
think about a rock bottom. Not a rock bottom, the people's elbow. It's an elbow drop, dude.
yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. Come
That's
on.
all it is.
Come on.
That's all it can't be the most electrifying move, despite what they tell us.
Well, and this leads me into Hulk Hogan's leg drop. Because
Oh,
goddamn, if there was ever a finisher that was never a finisher and never should have been a finisher, he
that
put
man
that
pinned Yoko and Andre the Giant from a
with
leg
a king leg drop. King leg drop, bitch. He's
It's embarrassing. It's
dude.
embarrassing. And
I'm getting hot now.
the
I'm
most
getting hot now.
the most embarrassing thing is how those Giants had to sell it. They had to sell it like it was the most career-ending move they've ever taken. And it's literally someone on my chest, not even on my neck, not even on my head where I could get a cut, on my chest.
Dude,
It,
it's like I'm not gonna blow my own horn or anything like this. But if I'm gonna give a guy people's elbow and things like that, damn, I've given guys elbow drops where I'm like 140 kilograms and I'm jumping as high as a second rope and putting an elbow down. That should,
yeah,
people should look at that
yeah,
and say, hey, you should at least get a 2.5 count out of that. But a
definitely.
leg drop, come on, dude, come on.
It's lazy,
It would have been
especially
better.
for someone who was
It would have been better if he finished them off with a super kick.
exactly. A super kick nowadays would have been better than
Oh man.
a match starter like a super kick nowadays would have been
Yeah,
better than a leg
and
drop.
then you watch Hogan wrestle in Japan when he wrestled Inoki and things like this. Dude was doing
Yeah,
flying head scissors and he was doing inzaguris and things like that, man. And you look at that, you're like, oh, and you want to finish off with a pin leg drop, you
yeah.
dense. Well,
We
that's
got the
Vince.
worst Hogan.
That's Vince. That's a
That
Vince
is
thing.
Vince.
Anyway,
That is Vince.
if hey,
Can't
listen
relate
here.
to that.
If you don't sing a real American at least once a day, are you really a wrestling fan? Are you wrestling? If you
I
don't
guess
brush
I'm
your
not.
teeth and start
Thank
going,
you so much.
yeah. If you're not brushing your teeth and going, it's hurting inside. Are you really brushing your teeth? Are you really brushing your teeth? I don't know. All right. So on a scale of 1 to 10,
Okay.
1 being bad, 10 being Dave Meltzer 7 stars, where would you put Forbidden Door?
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, I think taking into consideration the fact that it's the first ever cross-branded pay-per-view that AEW held,
Mm-hmm.
taking into consideration the talent that was on show, taking into consideration how rushed it was, but how it still managed to deliver,
Yeah, yeah.
and taking into consideration the fact that some of the matches had to be altered at the drop of a hat,
Sure, sure.
I'd give it a solid 7.
Solid 7.
I'd give
Okay.
it a, I'd
I
give
was
it a
gonna. I
solid
was.
7. I don't want to give
Yeah.
it anything higher because that's just throwing bones at a dog,
Right.
which the dog does not deserve. But I think they made it work. They pulled it out of their asses,
Right.
basically, and they made it work. And I always admire that. I mean, at the end of the day, they're entertainers, but they're wrestlers as well, and
Mm-hmm.
they need to put on a show.
Sure.
And
Sure.
if you're saying, as not only a wrestler, but as an, I don't know, someone who analyzes, if you're saying that the matches were good, the matches were watchable,
Yeah.
and bearing in mind that not all those matches were planned from the beginning, some were planned and had to be scrapped, altered. I think they did a good job, a good enough job to get them a 7.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No arguments there. I was.
What would you have said?
I.
4.
I would have gone. I would have gone for an 8. Merely because of.
Okay.
Merely because there was more positives in the matches than there
Hmm.
were negatives.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
have given it an 8. The two things that dragged it down: the predictability of the matches and the fact that AEW tried to fit a lot in that time, and there was a lot of multi-man matches in between
Yes,
that.
that's always their downfall.
It really, really, I felt it. I felt it hurt the show. It hindered the show more than it helped the show. So
Yeah.
yeah, minus
But
those
8 is
two
still
things,
still respectable. Yeah.
it's
Above
fine.
respectable.
It is. It's not the best event. It's not the best event of the year, but
Definitely not.
it's by far and away not the worst.
Yeah. It's watchable. And if something is watchable in this day and age, it deserves a lot of credit.
There we go.